play, Trey. You know, say run the play, Trey. I woke up this morning. Run the play, Trey. God kept speaking to me. Say run the play, Trey. He said, run the play, Trey. Say run the play, Trey. Alright. Run the play, Trey. Let me flow in this pocket. Say run the play. Yeah.
And action. Welcome back to the Andre Allen Network. We've been on hiatus for a while, maybe about 2 or 3 weeks, and we're back with another video. I got the beautiful Miss Georgetta with us tonight.
Good evening.
Right, and so it's been an interesting 2 weeks. We've been kind of busy, hadn't been able to sit down and do some videos, but now we're back at it. So we're gonna try to be consistent and come at you every week. Okay, so tonight, Miss Georgetta, she's gonna lead us. What we're gonna talk about tonight, Miss Georgetta?
So my favorite topic, mental health, specifically men's mental health. So I did a video earlier, Friday,
Okay.
about men's mental health because I was really troubled and saddened about the young man from LSU who many of you have heard he took his life.
Okay.
I know that there was some legal issues going on with him. Don't
Right.
know the full details of it, don't know the full scope.
Right.
But I was real saddened to hear about that because this baby, and I say it was a baby, is 25 years old.
Okay.
He took his life. And so it just really prompted me to think about like what was happening. And I believe his father made a statement on social media or something as well. But from what I understand too, he was scheduled or destined to go to the NFL. I think they pulled, what do they call it? They pulled his
draft.
Okay, they pulled his opportunity or whatever the case may be. Fast forward, so you are a black man,
Right.
and I talk a lot about mental health. So I want to know for you as a black man, you know, talking about mental health, talking about stressors, talking about all the things that you as a black man, what are your thoughts on men seeking help?
I think it's good. You know, as you know, I've been going through my own struggles. Recently, having lost both my parents, so I've been kind of mentally off a little bit and had to get some mental health therapy and do some soul searching.
So explain what you mean by mentally off for the people. What does that mean for you? Because it could mean something different for each person. So when you say mentally off, what does that mean?
Well, I mean, it was a devastating loss for me because I was close to mom, close to dad. So it was devastating. You know, I had to deal with the fact of them not being here no more. You know, feeling like, you know, when you lose your parents and they're not here and they raised you from a baby and now they're not on the earth no more, you kind of feel like you're by yourself, even though you're raising a family. You know, I got wife and kids and everything like that, but it still kind of feel like a part of my soul left when they died. So mentally I was kind of off. I kind of went through a depressing stage. I was depressed, you know, lost a little weight, wasn't eating the way I was supposed to.
So what makes it difficult? Because you had a little difficult time just acknowledging people, acknowledging where you were. So what makes it so, or for you, what made it so difficult for you to seek help?
You know, just keeping it inside. You know, you got, and at the same time as a male, you have everyday life happening. You still have to make sure your family is taken care of, maintained. You got a job that you got to do at work, and you got to maintain that. You're suppressing some feelings, trying to make it seem like it is all good, everything's okay, but really inside it's not, and you suppress those feelings. And I think that's the hole that I fell into, trying to suppress feelings, trying to make everything seem like it's okay, but
so it
wasn't.
Yeah, it's that idea that you gotta be strong because you got all these other things going on.
Right.
And so how do you think, when did you get to the point that you finally, I can answer that. When did you get to the point that you finally acknowledged that it was something a little bit deeper than grief, because we were dealing with grief,
Right.
but then it was something a little more deeper. So when did you get to the point when you finally acknowledged that?
Right. I think I finally acknowledged it. You talking about the time when I broke down and cried?
Either, yeah.
Yeah.
That was it?
Yeah, I think, we was at my parents' home, right? I'm just sitting at my parents' home. It was during the holiday, I believe. It was a Thanksgiving holiday.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting in my parents' house. And then all of a sudden, these thoughts and these feelings just came upon me. And I just bust out crying like it was something I was holding inside. And it just had to release and just come out. And at that time, I knew that, hey, I'd been holding this in all this time. And, during the holidays is tough when you lose loved ones, to death. Holidays can be tough because they're no longer there. And you're thinking about all the other holidays that they were.
Because it looks different.
Yeah, it looks different. Exactly.
Even this morning, you were a little taken
Easter.
back a little bit for Easter.
Yeah, for Easter. I was taken aback a little bit this morning. It was a little tough, and thoughts come in your mind, and memories come into your mind, and you start to fall into this, mental helplessness. Yes,
so let me ask you
word.
this, so you're married to a therapist, and of course, me as a therapist and me as your wife,
Right.
I don't provide therapy to you in
Right.
that sense,
Right.
that's unethical.
Right.
But how do you think that wives and girlfriends and family members can help our men when we see or sense that they're having a difficult time?
I think, first of all, you got to be understanding and realize that we probably need some time to ourselves, right? We need some space to kind of deal with our thoughts. We need to stay busy as men. We need to stay busy, because I think once you get stagnant or you get in a place where you just
that idle
and you're not moving, it's those thoughts are attacking you, and these mental thoughts that are not good are going into your mind, and you just got to stay moving. You got to stay busy, exercise, walk, meditate, pray.
But don't you think, so I just said a few minutes ago that I don't provide therapy to my husbands or family members, and I don't, but I do, as a trained professional, say, hey, babe, won't you think about this, or won't you think about that? I prompt you, right?
Right, exactly.
But also as wives, I do believe too, it's just what you said, giving you all the space, because men, they process it. What I witnessed from my husband is that he processes things a little bit differently.
Right.
But the point that you just made about when you broke out crying that particular day, and I've never seen you in that state, never, is that grief and depression manifests in different ways, right? So for you broke out in that way, but some people, they go to substances, they go to alcohol, or they get angry, they get violent.
True.
So we just have to realize that sometimes when we have a loved one who is struggling and they respond to you in a negative way, or they respond to you aggressively, it may be something going on, right?
Right, exactly.
For you, sometimes I do remember too that you would say, and what prompted this, you would say a lot of times, I said, baby, what's going on? And you'd be like, nothing. But I could tell from your body language. Right. So why weren't you willing to share at that time? What do you think that was? When I would ask you, I would see it and I would sense it. Right. And I would know in my spirit that something's going on with you, because I can look at you and you're like, nah, nothing.
Right. I just had to deal with it myself. It was just my way of dealing with it. And maybe at that point, I just didn't want to discuss it or talk about it. I just wanted to deal with it, internally in my mind, which is probably not healthy, because, you're keeping it inside, and it's good to talk or have some type of release, whatever you like to do, whatever your hobby is, whether it's playing basketball, if you do music, whatever it is that you like to do to stay busy, exercise, whatever it is, you need to do that and stay busy to get your mental strength, You know, get your mental strength back, and
so that idle time is really, it's not your friend. It's not good for you to have a lot of idle time.
Right.
That's why when people are going through their depressive state, I often recommend to clients that they volunteer their time or find their way to serve someone else, because it really takes your mind off of what you're going through.
Right.
But for me, from my perspective, through the lens of a wife watching her husband go through depression, grief, something that I couldn't help, so I'm talking to the women out there and the families out there, that if you have a husband or a son, nephew, godson, whomever, a male in your home, and you notice a shift in their behaviors, in their actions, that they kind of go inward sometimes and get quiet, they may need a quiet time, but if that kind of lingers on a little bit more, it may be something.
Keeps up, if
it's
it keeps
deeper.
on, if it's ongoing, where they feel like they have to be by themselves, so they don't want to be bothered, and it's ongoing all the time, then it's something. Maybe they need to go through some therapy, because that's not normal or a healthy state. They need to talk about it. They need to release. Check in
with your people. It's so important for men to have support. I know most times, I know this one right here, he's very private, but I think it's so important for men to have like a support group for each other, for men to kind of process. You think that'd be helpful for you? I know you're kind of private. Do you think that would be something helpful for you to have like a support group? Or I know you meet with your brothers, you and your brothers are really tight, y'all thick as thieves, but what do you think about that? Men having a platform where you can really share and talk about whatever.
Right. I think that'd be good. I think that would be, people that are close to you, men, guys that we trust, friends that we trust.
But you got to open up, because you don't open up to people.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I open up to somebody that I feel truly cares, somebody that I feel that I trust. My business is not going to be all in the street. And so those are the three components that I look at when I'm communicating with other guys. Whether it's my brothers or, close friends, or, it's got to be somebody that I can truly trust and,
that they're genuine.
That's it. That's the key. That's the word, genuine, that I'm looking for.
You find that as a black man, it's hard for you to trust?
Not for my immediate family. I don't.
No, just outside of family.
Outside of family? Yeah. I think outside of family, because I'm not the type of person that you're going to have a million friends and you go tell everybody. And, I try to keep my circle tight and small. And because if you go tell a bunch of people, you have a huge circle of people that you like to deal with, and you go, express yourself and tell secrets and things like that. To me, I don't think that's
you don't see the point in that.
I don't see the point in that. I don't.
Well, it's been an interesting journey, and seeing a different side of you, and seeing that side that was, he was crushed, losing two parents in a year and a half.
Yeah, that was tough. That was probably the hardest thing I'd been through in my life, because that affected my health too. So that was the, in my 56 years of living, that's probably the toughest thing I had to deal with. Yes, that was the toughest thing.
So I would say, practicing for families, practicing patience, looking at those things that they don't necessarily say, but you observe. For Andre, he's just stated he was, it impacted his health greatly. Going to the hospitals, going to the emergency rooms, not really knowing what's going on, but really not knowing.
Exactly.
But this just goes to show you how your mental and emotional health does. I've been saying this for a long time. How it impacts your physical health.
Yeah.
They're intertwined.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, your spirit, your soul. Like I said, when mom and dad passed away, I felt like it's like something just left me, like a part of my soul just left. And so, yeah, you're right. They are connected. Yeah, mental and physical, they're definitely connected. I can vouch for that for sure. Exactly.
So thank you for opening up. You know, I know it's been a process for us. It really, really has for me as a spouse, walking this and just not being able to help the way that I want to, but praying him through and just, you know.
And yeah, sometimes I want to say, sometimes as wives, sometimes it's just nothing that they could do. It's sometimes we got to walk this out. We got to walk this thing out with God. You know, we got to, you know, it's just God has to help me walk this thing out, and I got to pray and meditate and get my thoughts and communicate with the Lord. And sometimes it's just me and the Lord, and the Lord just got to, you know, get me through this.
But you know, at first, when this first happened, that was even difficult for you to do, because you wasn't really you wasn't trying to hear that initially.
Right, you're right.
I think you was so deep in your grief, you was like, you know.
You're right.
So now you're at a point now that you have your routine, and we know we're faith-based people. We know that we've been taught faith, but I think it is difficult or challenging to practice it sometimes when you're going through a challenge.
Yeah, when you're going through, it's tough. Yeah, it's tough when you're going through and your faith is tested at that point also. You know, your faith in God is tested, you know, at that point when you're going through something like that. When, you know, so yeah, that's the toughest thing. But, you know, the good thing is we're on the other side. I'm on the other side of this thing, and everything's going to be okay. And, you know, God is good, and he's gotten us through this, and we back on track now.
So let me ask you this. So what would you like, so from your perspective as a man, black man who has gone through grief and has gone through some depression, what would you like to see in terms of men's mental health?
What I like to see?
In terms of education, advocacy, because I touched on this a little bit too the other day about how, you know, you're 56, but the young man was 25.
Right, the football
and
player.
Faced with so many different challenges.
Yeah.
And the human brain is not fully developed until we're 26, 27 years old. And then he was so devastated about his future that he made a decision that is permanent.
Ended his life. Yeah, I think when he found out that he wasn't going to be in the draft, that they had removed his name from the draft, I think that really devastated him, because that was his dreams. You know, he saw his dreams blow up in smoke, and he couldn't see the other side. Sometimes God have us go through things. You know, all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord. But as a young man, you don't see that. You don't see that, and you don't see the future. You know, God who looks down, he sees our beginning, he sees the middle, and he sees the end. And so we don't know what other plans God had for the young man. God might have had some other plans and just didn't want him to, you know, football probably wasn't in his plans, but as a young one, that was probably his dreams and his goals. And when he got removed from the draft, he didn't see any other way. He was so devastated that he saw his dreams blow up in smoke.
So we'll talk more about that next time. You know, I just really wanted to kind of highlight the men's mental health piece.
Right, definitely.
Been
there.
So,
yeah, I've been there. I done been there, got through it. Praise the Lord, and
working through it every day.
Because
every day is different.
Every day is different. Yeah, and I'm still, matter of fact, I'm still going through it.
Healing.
It's a healing daily process. Still going through it, but day by day it does get better. It gets better for sure.
All right.
So you in the comments, other men or ladies, put in the comments what you would do as far as, you know, maybe if you have a loved one that's going through something mentally, what are some things that you would suggest for people to do when they're going through a mental health situation?
Or if you're a male, what are some of the things that you would like to see in terms of education, advocacy, maybe support groups? You know, men, I know when men get together, things happen. Great things can happen. Just like when women get together, great things happen. So I hope that you guys found this video helpful.
Yes.
If you have men in your life, Please get with your men, talk to your people, have a casual conversation, put the cell phones down and have a conversation.
Yes, talk.
Today.
Exactly. Amen. That's it.
All right.
That's it. All right, YouTube. We'll talk to you guys soon. It's a pleasure. Like, comment, and subscribe. Help us grow the channel. Peace.
Bye-bye.